This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
The adults are back in charge. Next on this week's episode of Michigan Podcast.
But there's going to be one team that's going to play solely as a team. No man is more important than the team. No coach is more important than the team. The team, the team, the team.
Looks deep for Anthony Clark. Waits for it. Gets caught.
They said you can't beat Ohio State. Now what?
Brady gets terrific. Throws it, get it, touchdown, Knight again. Schultz just before Brazil got him, and a leaping interception by Woodson.
Harbaugh back to throw over the middle, caught by Collier at the 5 on his feet, touchdown Michigan. On its way. It's good.
He's 5'7", 179 pounds, a junior at Michigan. But Jamie Morris packs a wallop, and he delivers for Bo Schembechler.
And here's your first play. Pressure coming. Sack. It is Glenn Steele, number 81, who fought his way through the traffic.
Option. And Robinson calls his own number, and he's going to score. Oh, an easy touchdown for Robinson and Michigan.
We're going to win the championship again because we're going to play as a team. And when we play as a team and the old season is over, you and I know it's going to be Michigan again. Michigan.
Go Blue. Happy New Year. And welcome to our first edition of Michigan Podcast here in the year of our Bo 2026. And as I just said at the top, yes, the adults are back in charge here at the University of Michigan. Kyle Whittingham, likely on his way to the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, retiring at Utah. And then 2 days later, turns out he's going to be interested in the Michigan job. He contacts us. And if you don't watch college football outside of the state of Michigan, then you just have no idea. Or the Big Ten, the massive coaching upgrade. Kyle Whittingham, Jason Beck, Coach Hill on the defense, Jay Hill, Coach Harding on the OL. What that is over what Michigan has had over the last 2 years. It's cosmic, it's galaxian, supersonic, inestimable. I mean, it's just a different phylum of coaching, literally. And if you go to our Patreon page, we broke this all down, position group by position group, staff member by staff member, just absolute upgrades everywhere in terms of resume. And maybe Chip Lindsey got a raw deal here as OC. I'm kind of in the camp that thinks that he did. But Jason Beck's going to be a massive upgrade, if for no other reason. He's going to actually get to coach the offense. I mean, Kyle Whittingham went through numerous OCs the last few years till he found what he wanted. And what he wanted was Jason Beck. Why? Because Jason Beck engineered the single greatest statistical turnaround of any offense in all of college football this past year at Utah. And then I would argue what Jay Hill did with the BYU defense the last 2 years is the single greatest defensive turnaround of any power conference defense of the last 2 years in college football. Those are the new coordinators here now. Huge step-ups. Kyle Whittingham to Sharon Moore, even if you take away the events with the side piece and the scandal that's ensued, and the jumpsuit that he was fixed with. Take all that away, like it never happened. Again, just a different phylum of coach. I mean, Kyle Whittingham has already been for years what we were hoping one day, years from now, Sharon Moore could have been here. He's already been that guy. Knows how to build a program. it's kind of funny now. He's kind of doing the Utah program on the way out what Jimmy did ours, bringing everybody down that he wants down to the strength and conditioning coach. And that's going to be a massive upgrade too. So to me, I'm very, very excited. I understand there was trepidation for the first couple days of the portal, but now you can see. And who knows, by the time this airs, and gets up on our YouTube channel later tonight, maybe we'll get good news on Justice Haynes, Andrew Marsh, Cole Sullivan, Jake Guinera, Andrew Sprague, and some other guys. Because guys are now starting to come back. Right before we went on, we started taping today. Zeke Berry, who I did not think was coming back, announced that he is indeed returning. Right, I still think we're in on several of the top end Utah guys. Snowden, their best quarterback, the All-American defensive end that's coming back from the leg injury. I still think we're going to land those guys, and we're going to land some other guys too. I mean, I still think when it's all said and done, much of the offensive line that we were all very excited about for next year, I think almost all of those guys, Sprague I'm the most iffy on, but if I had to guess, I think it's more likely than not all those guys or all those guys but Sprague are the offensive line for next year, but with way better coaching. I mean, if you've got a Justice Haynes, Jordan Marshall, Savion Hyder backfield, I take that up against any team in the nation. I mean, that is some Ed Davis, Tim Biaka-Batuka, Tyrone Wheatley level stuff right there. I mean, that's a phenomenal trio of running backs. So they've got a pretty good tight end there at Utah. Maybe we could add him. We definitely need to upgrade a receiver. You have to keep Andrew Marsh. He hasn't gotten into the portal yet. Despite the fact he is a wanted man. So that's a good sign. So I think when it's all said and done, just like during the coaching search, when Dillingham fell through and we couldn't wait for DeBoer and everybody panicked for like a week. And then Whittingham was hired and you're like, oh, all right, well, don't know how great it will be, but it's going to be solid. At least this guy's an adult. Now people are getting excited when they see what he can actually do on the fly with our resources. I think the same thing's going to be true of the portal. So we're starting from a position of, in the back because we have a new coaching staff. We can't go after guys until our assistants are officially, signed, sealed, and delivered. Right. All right. So and then these guys have been tampered with for weeks before we even had a new staff in place. So we were starting from behind and we're all panicked. We're only losing guys. What are we doing here? Already, it's only Tuesday at the time we're taping this year, and already the momentum is starting to change, like I said with Zeke Berry. All right. So I also think by the time we get to the 16th of January, we're going to be like, guys, this is a better roster than we were going to have. So we ended up with a way better coaching staff than we had. And we're going to end up, I think, with a better roster than we otherwise would have had too, when it's all said and done. I mean, this might go down as the single most profitable CEO sex scandal in the history of American commerce. I mean, when most corporations have sex scandals of the CEO like this, specifically when it ends with the CEO on an overnight, suicide watch and in a jumpsuit getting arraigned over a Zoom. All right. Not usually good. Not great, Bob. Not great, Bob. But dude, we're going to end up, I think, with a way better coaching staff. And I also think a better roster when it's all said and done. This will be the single greatest failing upward of a CEO sex scandal in the history of American commerce, I think, by the time it's all said and done. So I'm excited. You should be excited. This is no time for black pilling. I'm usually not Mr. Optimism, but it's because I'm also not Mr. Faith. Yeah, my faith is for Jesus. Everybody else, I just go off of nothing, just straight, cold, hard, sober facts. All right. And if the facts are good, then my analysis is good. And if the facts are bad, then my analysis is thusly. I don't do faith for my sports teams. This guy's track record is absolutely tremendous. Multiple conference coach of the year in multiple conferences, multiple national coach of the year in multiple conferences, multiple conference champion in multiple conferences, both at the Group of Five and Power Five level. The style of play he wants to run, the kind of program he wants to have. I mean, when he said at that opening press conference, we will not become you, you will become us. That is some Bo Schembechler stuff right there. That is some a Michigan man's going to coach Michigan. Those who stay will be champions level stuff right there. That fits right into the MO of who we want to be and who we are when we're at our best. All right, this guy's every bit the jackhammer that Jimmy was. He's just, going to be less autistic and more understandable. So I'm very, very excited. I think you should be too. I think the coaching staff assembled here is a tremendous upgrade. I think the roster will be better than it was as well. And we're all going to sit here and say, man, that was the most profitable sex scandal in the history of American enterprise. Go Blue. All right, well, let's reset this since we just talked about it in the opening. But just to reset this again, and for those of you that follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/Michigan Podcast, I did a deep dive a few days ago, just position by position group with this coaching staff and just comparing resumes to what we had here before to what we have here now. And I mean, I just think it's a tremendous upgrade. And as I said during the opening monologue to this show, if you don't watch football outside of Michigan or the Big Ten, you're going to truly have a difficult time understanding the overall upgrade this is in coaching acumen, experience, and resume. But let's find out maybe if I'm just too high on my own supply here. Let's bring in Mark Rogers, our one and only Bucknut friend. But this time of year, that's not who he is. This time of year, he's Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, covering the sport year-round on his outstanding YouTube channel by the same name, with correspondents all over the country. And now, Mark, first of all, my friend, Happy New Year to you. Hope the holidays was great for you and your family.
Excellent. Yes, we're off to a good start other than my Buckeyes here in 2026, but we'll categorize that as still 2025, I guess. But Happy New Year. And yes, appreciate you having me.
So it's kind of surreal. We've never been a program that has gotten a ton of love from national media, no matter what. And a lot of it is because in terms of the media intelligentsia, we've just never really allowed a lot of media access. Lloyd Carr was historically persnickety. I still remember the ABC sideline reporter. He dressed down at halftime to the point I wanted to call the young man and apologize to him myself. I thought it was over the top. All right. The one coach we had here, Harbaugh, of course, and the media hated each other from the beginning. Even before, some of the so-called scandals began. The one coach we had here who was very media friendly was Rich Rod, and he sucked. So, there's a long history of Michigan football in the national media kind of having a bit of a Buffalo stance. So it was kind of just, weird for me to get all these national media hosannas for the hiring of Kyle Whittingham, especially because he's not a Lane Kiffin kind of a new school guy. I mean, this is more of a Michigan style of coach, frankly, fitting into our culture. But a lot of hosannas for his resume, his record. A lot of thought that maybe we just hired a Hall of Fame level coach. And one of the things that came out that a lot of Michigan fans did not know is that he, as Jim Harbaugh would say, is a known friend and trusted agent of Urban Meyer. To the point I saw Urban Meyer say that he will now be rooting for the Wolverines, because he still won't say Michigan, that he'll now be rooting for the Wolverines 11 times every season, except for when we play you all, because that's how close he is to Kyle Whittingham and how much respect he has for him as a football coach. And Whittingham even says that Urban Meyer talked him into taking the job. So your thoughts on the Whittingham hire and what it means?
Well, Steve, since you brought him up, if you can't beat Urban Meyer, I guess you hire the next best thing. Is what you do there. So obviously...
and we could not beat Urban Meyer. That is true. We could not, yes.
So Whittingham did obviously talk about his close ties to Urban Meyer, defensive coordinator, how much he learned from Urban, how close they still are. And yes, I heard the same conversations, the same interviews concerning Kyle Whittingham. Obviously, at the point that he stepped down from Utah, he seemed to be fine with, hey, if this is the end of the road, then that's going to be fine. But there's a handful of jobs out there that I would actually take a phone call, and this is one of them. Michigan man, yeah, I can make parallels and comparisons between he and Jim Harbaugh in regards to style, and certainly in terms of football approach. He's right in the same lane with Jim Harbaugh. Michigan man, he's definitely a man's man. If he's not a Michigan man, he is a man's man. It is so refreshing to see a coach who is so confident, comfortable, doesn't feel like he has anything to prove, that he's good enough, that he can run the program. He doesn't have to sell you with any type of, any catchphrases or anything like that. I think that his relationship with the media is going to be very honest and forthright as much as he possibly can be, because I think that's who he is. I think he's a very straightforward person that is not going to bend over backwards or otherwise to kowtow to the media. However, he is not going to be a jerk. or otherwise to the media. So in terms of that relationship, I think maybe they've seen worse with Jim Harbaugh, who, if he wasn't on having a good day, certainly gave the media a rough time. And it was more difficult for me to understand what Jim Harbaugh was actually trying to communicate half the time. But Kyle Whittingham is so plain spoken. Yeah, there's no question of who he is, what he wants, what this program is going to be. I'm impressed that when he was leading Utah as a group of 5 powerhouse, of course, they joined the Pac-12, and there was going to be a transition for sure, but he made that about as painless as possible. There was one down year, another semi-transition year. Within 2 to 3 seasons, they were right at the upper crust of the Pac-12. So this guy, for a fan base that I believe, and I don't know what your feedback was from your side of the fan base, but Kalen DeBoer, Kenny Dillingham. As soon as those 2 names were thrown out there, the Michigan fans that watch my channel were definitely all in on either one of those 2. And certainly they would have been strong hires. But as you've stated many times, I've heard it here and I've heard it on social media from you. And I said the same thing as soon as the Sharon Moore situation went down. Michigan's going to have a better head coach than they have now, regardless of who that is. But I did not guess once Dillingham and DeBoer and a few other names that were floated out there passed them by. This then became a home run hire because I thought that they were going to, much like Penn State was able to recover and pull one out of the hat. Michigan was certainly able to do that as well.
You know, it's funny. I think both in the Penn State and Michigan cases, well, first of all, let me say this. If the Sharon Moore thing had happened even a week earlier, Matt Campbell would be the coach here now. I 100% believe that. And then I'd be in a real tough spot with all my state of Iowa friends watching Matt raid the entire Iowa State football program on behalf of me. My Christmas would have gone a lot worse. As much as I love Matt, all right, and think he would have done a great job for us. Back here, you don't crap where you live, Mark. My Christmas with my family and friends would have been a lot worse than it was if we all would have been just sitting around pretending not to notice that Matt Campbell was strip mining the Iowa State football program for my team. All right, so glad that didn't happen here. All right. But if you stop and look at where both schools ended up, in many respects, they both ended up with coaches that you probably could have sat there. Now that you see it all played out, why didn't you guys just start there? They're exactly what you're looking for, right? Matt Campbell could have gone to many big time jobs. We interviewed him with the Lions several years ago, but it's clear that him and his family had a certain style they wanted to live. All right. They wanted to live the Midwestern life. All right. And you probably can't do that at Ohio State because, Columbus is a massive city with a major market. You can certainly do it to some extent at Michigan. You can even more so probably do it at Penn State, where you have that hamlet there at Happy Valley. Right. So there's a marriage there, a blue blood guy, or a guy that has the acumen to do a blue blood, but it has to be in a certain kind of place that fits him and what his family wants. Right. And if you look at Kyle Whittingham, I mean, this is like if you married, if Lloyd Carr ran the offense his whole career, that he ran his last game against Urban in the Citrus Bowl, that would be Kyle Whittingham. I mean, just square-jawed. Okay. Kyle Whittingham just looks like Kyle Whittingham is a guy that if Jim had not gotten hired here in 2015, Michigan could have hired him then. Michigan could have hired him in, 2008 instead of hiring there's never been a coaching search here that you wouldn't think Kyle Whittingham would be a good fit for who Michigan wants to be. And even more so now, Michigan, I think, really needed a fully functioning adult. We've got issues at the athletic director position too, maybe. We needed someone who could just come in and be essentially the associate athletic director in charge of the football program, the moneymaker, while we figure out the president and AD situation at the university. Nobody that needed to be babysat, had his own coaching pool, his own player pool, knew how to talk to donors and everything already. And so both schools, despite the, magical mystery tour searches they went on, both ended up with hires you thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense, right? So I want to get your perspective as both a college football guy and then a bucknut. Your instant reactions when you found out it was going to be Kyle Whittingham. How are they similar or different from one another, those perspectives?
So real quick with Dillingham, that would have been a fun hire, and maybe he would have stayed at Michigan and won a whole lot of games for 15 years. Mm-hmm. So obviously the ceiling and the floor would have been much different with Dillingham, but you just don't have that confirmation that he can handle this kind of job. I believe he can, but maybe it's not quite ready for him right now. And then with DeBoer, there has to be concern that even with his guy coming back from the NFL, Ryan Grubb, that he was not able to mount any kind of a rushing offense with that type of talent on the Alabama roster. And obviously that's not Michigan football.
Well, it's funny you should mention. Can I just follow up on that really quick? Total number of 1,000-yard rushers that Kalen DeBoer has had as an entire career? 1. Here's the thing, though. Total times Kyle Whittingham has had a 3,000-yard passer? 3. And those are in the last 7 years. Michigan only has 3 3,000-yard passing seasons ever. So this idea that Whittingham's just coming here to run a service academy offense, that's not true. But anyway, go ahead. I go back to the original question, if you don't mind. Yeah, your reaction when you first heard Kyle Whittingham, both as just a college football guy and then as a Bucknut.
Well, I kind of have to merge those two together because it's not good news for Ohio State fans or for the Big Ten or for the nation. Now, Kyle Whittingham is not the splash hire that Lane Kiffin is, anything like that, but that's not who he is. But that's not what Michigan football is at its best. It is what Harbaugh delivered. It's what Bo Schembechler delivered. It's no flash. It's strength. It's tenacity. It's determination. Both displayed on the sideline and from Sunday through Friday, but also displayed, of course, then ultimately on the field. So there is a definite, the square jaw and the straight delivery and the no mincing words reflects then onto the football field. So it's one and the same with Kyle Whittingham. And I believe that is truly what Michigan football is. So he's a tremendous hire. The only question would be, how long is he going to stay? Is he a bridge hire? Is he a 2 to 3 year guy to move on beyond that? The guy's obviously in great health. He's out riding mountain bikes and skiing and doing all sorts of things. He's a man of 20 or 25 years younger in terms of health. So he could go on. We know that the 60-some-year-olds of our youth are not what they are today. They can live way beyond that as healthy guys, and Nick Saban into his early 70s and still getting the job done. So that doesn't have to be a bridge hire, but maybe it is. But the guy's rock solid, and I do think that this is a better hire in retrospect than DeBoer or Dillingham would have been. I'm just more sure of him. It is not going off the rails with him. It is not going to be anything other than we show up to work, we're accountable, we know that this guy is running a tight ship, but he cares for us, he cares about the program. We don't have to question him, we don't have to question his integrity, we don't have to question that he knows what he's doing. And Michigan's in a good place, no question, with Kyle Whittingham.
So, Mark, I don't know if you know this or not yet, brother, but you and I are now both older than Wilford Brimley was when he filmed Cocoon. So, yeah, 66 ain't what it used to be.
Those type of references, as you know, as a classic TV guy, just like I am, are all over the place. Grady of Sanford and Son, when he first took that role, was 49 years old.
Oh, wow. I'm older than that now. Yes, indeed. Let's have some fun with Kyle Whittingham, if you will. I'm going to throw out some questions and some numbers. All right. And then you give me an over under. Okay. Years coaching at Michigan, 5.
Over.
Big Ten titles, 1, 2.
Well, he's got 3 at Utah in 21 seasons. So as a Buckeye fan, I'm good with keeping up that pace. We'll give you 3 in 21 years. I'm good with that. Okay, 2 more. Over.
You think more? Wow. All right. Playoff appearances, 4.
Well, then he's got to be over with my previous answer.
Okay. And if you're noticing, by the way, with the roster, there was all this panic here, the first 2 days of the portal. Now we're starting to see several of the guys that left. He's starting to woo them back now. So I think we may end up with almost all those guys back here that we wanted anyway. Some of the guys like Jaden Mangum, if you saw a big pass play by the opposing quarterback, chances are he was on the field for that. But I think several of the guys like Cole Sullivan and others that we want back, we're going to end up probably getting those guys back. So that speaks well to him.
See, by the way, your over-under expertise is too good. You're right in the ballpark of where I would be. So you make this difficult.
Well, that's what makes it fun. If it was easy, it wouldn't be any fun. You'd have nothing to think about. It'd be too obvious, right? All right, let's talk about this season then. All right. Wins. I'm going to guess the Vegas win total for Michigan in about a month or two. I'm going to put it at 8.5. All right. So would you take the over or under? The schedule by name is certainly tougher. Most of the toughest games are at home, but 2 of the road games are Oregon and Ohio State.
Who's the big non-conference game?
Oklahoma at home. Return engagement. Yeah.
Oh, I've got to go 9-3. Sure.
So you go over there.
Yes.
All right. Bryce Underwood, 3,000 yards passing next season.
I overestimated him by a ton this year.
You weren't the only one.
One of the most embarrassing predictions I've made in a long time.
But you know what? That'd be about 600 more yards than he threw for this year, though.
That's only 50 yards per game.
Yeah.
I'm still going to say under.
Okay. Yeah. Devin Dampier was just under that for Utah, but his overall efficiency numbers were way better than Bryce's. All right. So, your overall view of the coaching staff he's assembled. I mean, it's hard to judge it on one end because it was going to be very difficult for this not to be an upgrade. Okay. Right. And so better than we had is good, but what does that mean in relation to what everybody else has? All right. I am very confident in the defensive and the 2 coordinators and the offensive line coach. I'm very confident in those guys. All right. I mean, Jason Beck led statistically the single greatest offensive turnaround in college football this year. Jay Hill, the last 2 years, statistically led the single best defensive turnaround in college football at BYU. All right. And so I think Hill can at least be what Wink was, at least. And I think Beck will be way ahead of what we had before. If for no other reason, Kyle's going to let him actually coach the offense. And then we're bringing in one of the very best offensive line coaches in the country. So, but your view overall of the coaching staff that he's assembled here, because they're going to do a lot of the managing of the actual roster.
So I did not take the deep dives that you alluded to that your Patreon members can take part in. But as a national guy, I am typically familiar with any coordinators that are on any of these staffs. So that's where I thought that they were strong, offensive, defensive coordinator. I also looked at the composition of the staff because Kyle Whittingham was asked about Tony Alford in particular during his introductory news conference. And, for him to go into that Michigan staff room and say, you guys are all really good at what you do. You just came off a successful season, but this is kind of part of the deal that you may win 9 or 10 games and have to go look for a job the next year. That it does seem as though he attempted to pull from his old staff, keep a remnant from the Michigan staff in place, obviously keeping the best. And then he obviously has BYU connections because those are the 3 locations of the staff. So I got to trust that he selected the best of what he could pull from those 3 areas. But there was a definite thought process to keeping what he could at Michigan.
Final thing, normally this would be the show that we would do our crystal ball reconciliation from the previous year, but Michigan, of course, had major news, so we'll put that off till later this winter. But I have had some questions. I mean, a year ago at this time, we were all still hearing stories that Ryan Day needed security around the city of Columbus, okay? And I'm not talking job security, like physical security. So I've always wondered how long he is for that job. There are numerous NFL jobs, including teams that, where you could pick your quarterback and design your own offense. Matt Patricia put out yesterday what looked like a goodbye letter to me. I mean, that was a very interesting note that I thought he put out. And he did do an outstanding job this year, which I'll give credit where credit is due. Let's just say it's the best coaching I've ever seen Matt Patricia do in the state of Michigan and leave it at that. Okay. So anything that you guys on your side of the septic tank over there that you're wondering about, or is there any scuttlebutt going on over there at all?
Well, from Ryan Day's perspective, if he has no great allegiance to the university or the football program, which based on his previous history, doesn't seem to be the case. He's done an outstanding job. He can walk away with a national championship and say he accomplished what he set out to do. He can go to the NFL, and not that these guys are not ultra competitive, but when you can lose 7 games a year and still make the playoffs and not have that just constant, he states, I know I've said this before, Steve, he states at almost every press conference he does at Ohio State, and it might be, the Ohio University game that week, I understand I can't lose a game. I understand I have to win every game. He makes that statement all the time. That just has to be a bit much. Now, they obviously failed miserably on the offensive side. He was calling plays in the.
you guys scored at one point like 1 touchdown in 6 quarters in these last couple of games. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was all offensive line related, number one. And then it could be argued between play calling and Julian Sain not being quite as sharp and being rattled by a pass rush and not having the escapability that previous Ohio State quarterbacks have had. You could argue after the offensive line what to blame there.
What about Patricia? You think he's back next year?
Well, I hope he's back.
But you saw the note I'm talking about. Just I don't want to make people think I'm just like making that up. But picture of his whole family and everything. That kind of looked to me like,
I don't know
why. On the flip side, I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't know why somebody would do that before it's all said and done. But that's a tough call for me. I really don't know. Have not heard anything that's concrete, but yeah, a lot of people are conjecturing because of that.
Okay. All right. Wanted to make sure it wasn't just my maize and blue imagination there. All right. Good to see you, brother. We'll do it again later. All right. God bless.
Appreciate it, Steve. Thanks.
You bet. This week's X Poll results, we asked you, what letter grade do you give the Kyle Whittingham hire as the 22nd head football coach at the University of Michigan? 67% of you said A. 28% of you said B. 4.7% of you said C. I have no idea how you could give this a C. I don't. We hired a college football Hall of Famer. And I didn't even mention this yet, but one who's got an axe to grind, something to prove. You're not going to find a lot of 66-year-old men who have been as successful as Kyle Whittingham has been, who have an edge to him, all right? But his alma mater kind of sent him to the rocking chair before he thought he was ready to go, all right? And he's a little surly about it. He's kind of rated his old alma mater too, right down to the strength and conditioning coach. All right. So you're getting a guy like him with something to prove and has one last line on his resume, which is, I want to win a national championship. I have no idea how you can give this a C. I really don't. I'm fine if you want to give it an A, but there's no way you can give this one a C. That brings us to our feedback of the week. From Geez Louise, 1998, who thought she was the only person who still said the word pillow biters. No, I still say such things. Because the amount of people who were panicking at the losses of our offensive linemen before our coaches even got into place, got a chance to make a sale. So I posted last week on X. At the end, and I'll make this vow to you guys right here on YouTube and Apple and everywhere else. All right. At the end of next year, if it is not absolutely obvious that our offensive line is better at the end of 2026 than it was at the end of 2025, I will personally donate $500 to Michigan's NIL collective. That's how confident I am. I'm not going to have to do that. With the track record of this coaching staff, the guys that they're going to end up bringing back into the fold, it's not just going to be better. It's going to be a lot better. And if you didn't see that, if you didn't look at the track record of the coaches, then yeah, right? You're more than a nervous Nelly. You're a pillow biter. You were just completely black pilling for no reason. And that's coming from a guy that doesn't need many reasons to black pill. All right. All right. So that does it for this week's episode. Don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, share, 5-star review, comment, whether you're watching here on YouTube or listening on Apple iTunes or elsewhere. We appreciate all those that do such things, I should say in English, all those that do such things, because you guys help us to grow. In fact, we crossed over 25,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel in the year 2025. So thank you all very much for that. Also, you can follow us on X in between episodes at Michigan Podcast there, at Michigan Podcast there. Until the next time, I'm Steve Deace, and go Blue.